Hello and welcome to another exclusive interview by Recovery Today magazine at Recovery Today magazine, where first and foremost, we're a magazine of hope. Whether you're considering addiction recovery for yourself or a loved one, or you're actively in recovery a short while or many years, you'll find information on all topics related to addiction, recovery, and living a happy, successful, sober life at Recovery Today. My name is Sherry Gaba, and I'm the editor of Recovery Today, and I have the distinct pleasure of interviewing another great guest today, Bill Greer, who is the president of Smart Recovery USA and Smart Recovery International Board of Directors. Bill's a lifelong leader and professional in the nonprofit field. He began his career at SmithBucklin, North America's largest association management firm. He then worked for nearly 3 decades as a communications executive for the Food Marketing Institute, representing the supermarket industry, serving as a speechwriter, strategist, and media spokesperson, focusing especially on public affairs issues. Over the past 7 years, Bill has volunteered for Smart Recovery at every level, facilitating regular and family and friends meetings and serving 3 years as a regional coordinator. He helped create a 12-meeting InsideOut course for youth offenders in the Montgomery County Correctional Facility in Maryland. For this work, he was honored by the correctional system with an award for excellence and by the city of Rockville with a public safety award. Bill was elected to the SMART Board of Directors in 2017 and served as the principal writer for the Smart Recovery 5-year strategic plan. He was a founding board member of Smart Recovery International. Bill holds an MS in journalism from Northwestern University, Medill School of Journalism, and earned a BA with honors from Lawrence University. An accomplished writer, he authored America the Bountiful, How the Supermarket Came to Main Street, a history of alarm security, and chapters on communications and information technology for SmithBucklin's Complete Guide to Nonprofit Management. Wow, Bill, we have a couple of similar things in our histories. I used to sell ads for the grocery stores for a magazine, for a newspaper, newspapers, and I also was a journalism major. So that's very interesting.
Well, it's a good discipline to learn. Helps you get to the point quickly and communicate effectively.
I think so. I don't feel like I'm a creative writer, but I do feel like I can edit pretty well, and I can get to the who, what, where, when, and why. You know, kind of the facts, man. But I have authored 2 books myself. So I'm really excited to have you here, Bill. You have quite a history, and you know, we're trying to bring all different types of options to our subscribers, whether it's somebody that's still struggling in addiction or alcoholism, or somebody that has recovery but looking for, you know, more purpose in their lives, or just, you know, want to know what's happening out there in the recovery world. And then of course we also work with families, the ones that, you know, often are trying to support those that are struggling. So we're kind of a multifaceted magazine, and I think what's important about what you do is, you know, you bring to the table another option to recovery. So why don't we just start out, for those who may not know, what is Smart Recovery?
Smart Recovery is a community of mutual support groups that can help people gain freedom from any addiction. We use a self-empowering 4-point program to help people manage their own addiction, deal with the urges and cravings associated with addiction. We have a 4-point program that I think many people find effective. We help people obtain control of the addiction using themselves. We help them develop resilience in dealing with their addiction. The 4 points are really beginning with motivation, and then dealing with urges and cravings. The 3rd point is learning to manage your thoughts and beliefs that control how we feel and how we act. And then the 4th point, which is probably the most important point, is learning how to live a fulfilling and balanced life. You can't totally get over an addiction until you've replaced the addictive life with a new one that has purpose and meaning. We have mutual support groups that meet all over the place, where people help each other recover, sharing experiences. Our meetings are run by trained facilitators. Our program does have a scientific basis. We were founded by counselors and psychologists about a quarter century ago who integrated cognitive behavioral therapy tools, motivational therapy tools into our program, using it in a mutual support group setting. So the facilitators are aware of how these therapies work and use tools from those programs as they facilitate the discussion. But basically, it looks like any support group that you might go to, although I think you'll find these are very focused on recovery, and they are smaller in nature, which I think is kind of helpful. So more people have an opportunity to participate. And it's helped me a great deal personally. I'm very glad to be associated with it.
Oh, that's great. Well, let me ask you a question. So is it an abstinence model? Like, is that the goal, for people to be abstinent?
Yes, I think, well, we teach people how to stop using or behaving in addictive ways. Now, in accordance with the motivational interviewing approach, we don't tell people what their recovery goal must be, but the program is, they have to set their own goal, but we help them with abstinence primarily, and stop using or doing the things that are causing the addiction. So we don't really talk about how to help people moderate in their use.
Okay. So do people have sponsors?
No, we don't have sponsors. Although I would say that the groups are very supportive of people. When you go to our meetings, you'll find a lot of support there. As I've been a facilitator of meetings, I've helped individuals who have asked for support and gone out and had coffee with them and given them some personal guidance. So that, and people can do that with other members of the groups. But no, we don't have a formal sponsorship program per se.
How did you get involved in Smart Recovery? Was there something about the traditional 12-step model that didn't speak to you? Was it the higher power, God thing? I mean, or just you looked for something more cognitively based?
Well, I personally had a serious problem with alcohol. I had a serious alcohol drinking problem, and I first tried to quit on my own, as many people do, and that worked for about 10 months, and then it stopped. It didn't work. I realized I needed help. Also, my wife was very strong in encouraging me to get help because it wasn't, obviously it wasn't helping our marriage. And then I went to an intensive outpatient program, which is a very good way of getting treatment, I think. And I would recommend people look into that option as they're looking for ways to get treatment. And from the very first week of that treatment, they said, you got to find a support group because you're going to need that support group to help you sustain your recovery and after the program ends. And then I was living in Washington, D.C., where I still live most of the year. And there are quite a few Smart Recovery meetings in that area, as well as 12-step meetings. And they just said, pick one or try both and see which one works for you. And so I did that, and I found the Smart Recovery meetings to be very helpful to me. I guess the thing, and it was convenient because there was one about a mile from where I live, which was helpful. And I found that the discussions at the meeting and the group dynamics and the way people were helping each other at the meeting were not too different from the discussions that were going on in the intensive outpatient program. So I found that kind of helpful. And in some respects, the SMART meeting was more helpful because there were people who were already well into their recovery. So I was finding, to some extent, I was getting more out of those meetings than the intensive outpatient meetings.
So it had nothing to do with God or higher power. It was just you happened to find a Smart Recovery meeting, and that's what spoke to you?
It just made more sense. I think I tried it. I went to a few 12-step meetings that they were very large. I tried to participate, and I really couldn't talk. There were 25 or 30 people there.
Yeah.
And the SMART meeting just made a lot more sense to me. And I guess the more I got involved in the program, the more it just helped me. And I think after about 6 to 9 months, they suggested I might become a trained facilitator. So I went through the training program, which was an online program that takes about 20 to 30 hours to complete. And then about a year later, I started co-facilitating regular meetings. And I found that very helpful, not only to the people I was helping, but also to myself, because I think it strengthened my own recovery process, trying to help others through facilitating. Then I went on to start a family and friends meeting and tried to help them with a different kind of SMART program. We have a special program.
I was going to ask you about that. Are there programs for family and friends in the SMART
Yes, we do.
recovery?
Yeah.
Oh, good. What do they call that?
Well, they're called SMART family and friends meetings.
Oh, great. Okay, I didn't even know that existed. That's wonderful. Oh, I love that. I have to.
Yeah.
I'm part of the other
It's
program.
very different, actually. And I comparing the two, I think I found the family and friends meeting in some respects a lot more challenging. I think the predicament that many people in that position find themselves in is extremely hard.
Yes.
Because they're dealing with a loved one who has an addiction problem, who probably isn't doing anything about the addiction problem. It's driving them crazy, and frustration, despair, worrying about them killing themselves. I mean, it's pretty scary.
Yes.
And our program first teaches them how to take care of themselves, which is something a lot of them don't really get. And that's unfortunate, because they really got to focus on self-care, as you might know in your practice, and getting their own life back together with their own support system. I mean, they have to go through a recovery process themselves. And then when they can get their own life back together, then I think they're in a position to help their loved one seek treatment and create a new kind of relationship and change the dynamics of the interaction with the loved one. And ideally, that will eventually lead the loved one to get treatment.
It's so true, because I remember Al-Anon, and I think we focus on self, but I think the self-care wouldn't say that's, I mean, it's talking about, it's a me program. So yes, there's some aspects of self-care, but I think you're absolutely right. You lose yourself, when your focus is on you become really obsessed. Your addiction becomes that person you're trying to get sober, and you absolutely lose a sense of self. You have that quote codependent characteristic where your whole world becomes smaller and smaller. And so I think it's so important to get outside of yourself, just like the addict is sort of in their own way. I think the codependent family member is getting in their own way, because they're just completely, addicted to helping that person. So I love that idea of self-care. I think that's excellent. So what would be some self-care techniques that you would share at a meeting?
Well, that would be finding a circle of friends to talk to and meet with, undertaking activities that you enjoy, pursuing whatever hobbies or interests are interesting to you, going out and having fun. At the end of every family and friends meeting, we go around the circle and say, okay, what are you going to do this week to have fun for yourself? I mean, what?
Right. I love it.
And so people would say, oh yeah, I'm gonna go see my friend. I'm gonna go to a play, or I'm gonna go watch some music somewhere, or I'm any number of things. But that's very important.
Yeah.
And I think that's
I agree. So it's sounding like it's more interactive. Like, in other words, in the 12 steps, they always talk about no crosstalk. So it's sounding like you allow crosstalk. You allow, back and forth.
Yes, it's highly interactive, but with the qualification that we have a facilitator who's kind of managing the discussion. The facilitator's role is, they're listening very actively. They're making sure that no one individual starts taking control of the conversation or veers off into some direction that's not really helpful to the group. The facilitator's got to make sure that everyone who wants to participate has a chance to participate, and make sure the discussion stays constructive, stays positive. And we'd like to focus on the present and the future, and what people can be doing now and tomorrow to advance their recovery or to help themselves or their loved one, whatever the meeting might be. So, but yes, it's really interactive. People are sharing experiences. We don't give advice. We don't tell people what to do, but we try to help people by saying, well, you're in this problem. This is what I did to fix this problem. why don't you try that out for yourself and see if it works.
So why do you think it's important in today's addiction epidemic to have different recovery programs?
Well, I think it's widely understood that there's no one program that's going to work for everyone. And in fact, I think it's widely understood among experts that you need a multitude of programs for different people who have different orientations, different interests. Our program, I think, is particularly helpful for people who want to feel a sense of power, that they can control their own recovery process, as opposed to surrendering to a higher power, which might be an approach that appeals to other people. We have a program that's very practical and focused on recovery itself. And it's very well laid out. I mean, the way any kind of treatment program would work, covering the basic 4 things you need to do to recover. And so I think I would recommend people try it out. You know, one thing that people can do, if you don't have a Smart Recovery meeting near you, we have a lot of online meetings now. You can go to our website, and we have about 30 online meetings now. You can go to family and friends meetings online. You can go to regular meetings. And I would encourage people to try out Smart that way if you just want to see how it works.
Check it out. So I think a lot of young people, this probably speaks to them. You know, I know that when I've worked with young people, they, you know, sometimes I work with positive psychology, law of attraction, just some, you know, other ideas of, you know, what you think is what you create, which is really CBT. And so I'm wondering, why do you think young people are taking to Smart Recovery? What do you think is different about it than the traditional models of recovery? Why do you think young people are really, you know,
well, I think young people don't like to be told what to do.
I don't think addicts and alcoholics like to be told what to do, but yes, specifically young people.
But I think that the self-empowerment concept appeals to them, I think, in many respects.
Yeah.
But obviously they've got to take responsibility for their own behavior, and they've got to be willing to make the changes in their lifestyle that are required to recover. I mean, getting over an addiction that's a major process. And I think a lot of people don't fully understand the kind of changes that are required to fully recover. I mean, it's not only just a matter of stopping the addiction that you were engaging in. I mean, that's the beginning of the recovery process, but it's creating a whole new life, a whole new lifestyle, new friends, new activities, something that will sustain yourself without the addictive behavior, ideally for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think it's fascinating, and I think it's fantastic that there's this option out there, because there really are different roads to recovery for sure. And I love the fact that it's interactive, because a lot of people do say, you know, they feel like they go to a meeting and the only time you can really share with somebody else is after the meeting. So I think this is, I love this, and I didn't know much about Smart Recovery till this interview, so I'm kind of interested in maybe checking it out for the family and friends. So what would you say to that addict, alcoholic out there that's still struggling? You know, what sort of hope could you impart?
Well, I would say I would encourage you to attend Smart Recovery meetings and check them out. I would try at least 5 meetings and see to what extent they can help you. You'll find the program very easy to understand, and you'll find a very welcoming environment. I think the meetings are very positive. I know the people involved are very passionate. Now that I'm president of the organization, I have tremendous respect for the volunteers who run our meeting and their commitment to help people in any way they can. So I think they will find a very positive experience if they try it out. It may not work. I mean, I think they should try different things, but I know a lot of people have been helped by Smart Recovery, and I would encourage you to check it out. Now, I should qualify that to one extent. Smart Recovery is not treatment. It's just like 12 steps is not treatment. I mean, we're a support program. If you've got a serious addiction problem, I mean, you've got to go to a professional for help. Some people, perhaps with mild to moderate cases of addiction, maybe can recover with the help of a support program. But if you've got, a serious addiction problem, you should try to get professional help. I think that's very important.
I do. Start with treatment, and then move your way into a support environment.
Or do both at the same time. I mean, I think they're complementary.
And then what about a family member? I think we'll close with that. What would you say to the family member out there still sort of obsessed with that addict in their life, still in constant fear, obsessed, worried tremendously, not taking care of themselves? What would you say to that family member that maybe even doesn't know the difference between supporting recovery or enabling the addict?
Well, I would strongly emphasize you first have got to take care of yourself. I mean, there's the analogy that, you're in an airplane, the oxygen runs out and the masks come down. You got to put the mask over yourself before you put the mask, on your loved one. So if you're not taking care of yourself, then you're going to have trouble helping your loved one get over their problem. But you got to have a lot of patience and perseverance. I think, unfortunately, it can be very difficult. But you hang in there. Keep going to meetings. Use those meetings as a way to vent your anger if you have to. Find a strong group of people who will support you and become part of your own network of help that I think everyone needs. You can't do it alone. I mean, that's one of the things I learned. Recovery is very hard to do alone. I would say it's virtually impossible. I think for men, that's very hard to appreciate.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I've never seen it work. And the main thing that I see over and over again is people want to control their disease. They want to be able to, quote, drink like a gentleman or drink, moderately or whatever. And, it's a brain disease. And so you need other people to share their experience, strength, and hope, whatever you want to call it, so that you can see that, you're not alone. You're part of something much bigger, many people out there to relate to. And I would agree with you. You need to not be isolating. You need people. People need people for sure, and especially in recovery, because there's also a lot of shame. And I think that these types of support, address the stigma and the shame that so often addicts and alcoholics feel. So thank you so much, Bill, for taking the time to do this interview. Is there anything you'd like to leave us, or how can people contact you or find Smart Recovery?
Smartrecovery.org, and look at our website. Sign up for our online community. You can go to meetings online. You can go to chat rooms. You can go to message boards. There's a wealth of information about Smart and about addiction in general. And I would seek all the help you can get from different sources. I would check out every possible source of help. You can go to 12-step meetings, go to other meetings, just see whatever you can to help you, because I don't think anybody is going to find the cure or the solution to their addiction problem in just one place. I think the people who succeed are the ones that do a lot of different things. I mean, for me, it was yoga, meditation, it was exercise, it was reading, it was becoming immersed in Smart, which helped me quite a bit. But,
how long have you been sober?
Almost 7 years.
Oh, that's amazing. So there's really hope. Here you are. Are you retired? You're retired at this point.
Well, yeah, theoretically, I did retire, yes. But I'm virtually working full time now as the president of Smart Recovery.
Well, the fact that young people can be such an inspiration when a young person gets sober, I think somebody that is, later in life, you are a great inspiration. Because, I mean, my ex-husband got sober at 62. I mean, it's just never too late. It's never too late.
Well, for me, it was, I started at about age 55, 57, and I decided, you know what, I'd like to live another 20 years. If I keep going the way I'm going, I'm not going to survive more than 5 years.
Well, you are certainly a miracle.
I was smoking cigarettes and I was drinking, and I just stopped everything. And now it's 10 years later, and hopefully I can get another 10 to 20 years out of this body and help a lot of people in the course of doing that.
Well, keep inspiring people, Bill. You have a really great story and a lot to share with the world. And thank you again. And thank you, everybody, for an amazing interview with Recovery Today magazine.
All right. Thank you. Glad to be here. Bye-bye.
Bye.